what are the next steps for this board. You have to make a decision, either for or against, and so what else needs to happen? And definitely, please weigh in on what the next steps are
Well,
legally.
I mean, there's no more steps left as far as legally before you make a decision. So, I think what is left is motions and voting, or if no one makes a motion, then nothing happens.
I thought there was some agreement that we would make all the decisions at one time. I may be wrong about that, but I don't know, maybe I just made that up. I think so. You think so?
Let's just do that. Hey,
Do what?
make all the decisions at one.
That's right.
Have one meeting and vote on them all.
Dr. McLean, how will that jive with would it be possible to make any changes for next year if the board
Not at
decides?
this rate, Madam Gibson. This is recruiting season for charter schools and public schools and private schools. That work is typically done in November and December of the school year, and registration begins in January. So we just, not that there's, one way or another, I just think it's important for our board to know that as you make this decision.
And master scheduling at the schools,
Absolutely.
traditional schools will be starting at some time.
And what we would do is we'd simply recruit as we always have. The schools would be in place. It would almost be an understanding that what we have is what we would be recruiting for the next year without any sort of new information.
Well, Dr. McLean, how would you handle incoming freshmen for health and life sciences?
In the event of something, or as it stands right now?
As it stands right now.
I do exactly what we've been always doing. There's nothing new or different to do at this point for next school year.
In light of that, Dr. Houlihan, you're saying, you know things are going to happen. So for incoming freshmen, we would be sort of just reel them in,
Well, that could.
knowing that it's going to happen.
That could very easily be a situation where the students who are freshmen would not be, there would not be enrollment in the School of Health and Life Science. And once again, once the academy is set up, or whatever it's going to be, those kids would then join that. But all I care about is that we have a year to plan. That's all I care about. And I mean, that's all I care about, that it be done right so that the kids, it's a win-win. And the way it's going to be done is it's going to be a win-lose. So, anyway.
So, Dr. Houlihan, I'm finished with facilitating action steps. I think you've heard what those are. Dr. McLean, Dr. Houlihan, anything else you need for me to kind of throw out on the table tonight?
Yeah, why didn't you solve all this?
I totally respect the complicated nature of what all of you are dealing with. And I know it's a lot about money, but it's also conversation tonight, but I know all of you are worried about students and the impact on students and families too. So I commend you for that.
Thank you. Mr. Udy?
I'd just like to thank y'all for everything you've done, because you've really helped us out and getting points out to us. Y'all have been an asset for this.
Thank you too. Thank you, Debbie. Thank you very much.
So if we could just take a moment, if there are next steps for staff, then we sort of need that direction within the night. If there are no next steps, then we'll be very careful to just proceed with that November 29th date for recruiting, because that was on the table to maybe move it if we needed to, and so that we can be competitive as a district and try to recruit children to the district. We want to make sure we're being competitive there. So just next steps for staff.
Well, I think that, we can make the decision tonight. If we do it all the same, I mean, you're going to have the same problem until we make a decision one way or the other about Mary Potter, about Northern Granville, about Toller, so I mean, that's going to be an issue for you no matter what.
Well, it's just the timing of recruitment. So
Right.
if we are clear that that is not going to occur this month, then that allows us to go ahead. The worst thing we could do to families would be to recruit them, and parents think and feel a program is gonna be in place, or the school is going to be there, and then we change our minds. That would be absolutely devastating to families. So if we're pretty clear that this decision will not be made this evening, then I think it's safe to say we proceed with our choice fair. We're gonna change it to a showcase of schools, we'll talk about it Monday night, but to proceed as we did this year. I just need to know that's safe to say.
So is this something we can proceed on tonight in this
Yes.
workshop meeting?
Oh, yes,
Sure.
I think that was the idea.
And I'd like to make the motion to merge JFL and Health and Life Science.
Is that effective at the end of the 18-19 school year?
Let's go on effect the next school year.
I'll second.
I'd just like to make the comment that
We
we talked,
got a motion on the.
I know.
Oh, yeah, yes,
Discussion.
yeah, you're right, sorry.
sorry, I didn't mean that to come across that way. We talk all the time that we want to hear from the professionals. And our professional said she needed at least a year. So, and I just want to point that our professional said that.
This would give them about 10 months. I don't see where 2 months would be that much out.
Will you-
Well, I guess I would chime in and say, we need to give some direction to our school district as to our intentions. I mean, we're juggling a lot of things, and nothing is clear right now. It's sort of hard for families and businesses to make decisions when there are so many indecisions that are going on. You have to start someplace. Let's start.
Well,
I call the question.
all right, I call the question. All those in favor of the motion, raise your hand. All opposed? Motion fails.
Time. 3-3.
Yeah, the motion doesn't
You need a
pass in
majority.
a tie, there was no majority, so the motion fails.
Well, now you know what you're supposed to do.
What we doing now?
We will
We didn't
proceed.
change.
And I move to adjourn.
Well, before we do that, let's talk a little bit more about it, see if we, I mean, what would be a fair thing to do to meet your decision issue and so forth? What if we did, since the first motion failed, came up with a motion to merge the school of Health and Life Science with JF Webb in 19, 20, 21, or whatever the date is the next year. Just do that, knowing that the staff would, and whatever, would put together a plan. I mean, let's just say, do it that year.
I would support that, Dr. Houlihan, because as I asked earlier, what are we going to tell the ninth graders
Right.
coming in
Right.
now?
Right.
They deserve a decision
Right.
now. So even if we put it out 2 years or whatever, let's give folks a date certain.
I couldn't agree with you more.
Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we, I want to make sure I get my dates right since we're in this, is that we allow it to continue the rest of this school year into next year. And so that we merge them, am I right, in 2021? Is that those 2 years out, are you?
After the 19-20 school year,
Yeah.
after the end of the
After
19-20 school.
At the end of that school, with the intention of those principals are coming back to us with a plan for academies.
Okay. Do we have a second? I can't second it. I can't make
It is
a
not
motion.
generally done in Granville. I would have to look at your policy.
That's not the answer. That's not the answer.
There is no Robert's rule against it,
Yes.
but you have a local policy.
I'll second that. Do we have local policy?
But I don't know what it says. Well, it's not working. is my problem, so if someone else would like to look it up.
Well, I'll second it rather than to do nothing.
Okay,
Thank you, Mr. Mims.
motion and second, is further discussion?
So my thought would be, is that way they can recruit this year, telling freshmen, you have the opportunity to be in it. And our plan is we're gonna have an academy set up so that you can continue your
Know
coursework.
what would happen.
And then that way I also put some burden on the superintendent's staff and the school staff to know they have a deadline to work towards for this academy thing, since it seems to be the issue that we asked for but at one point and never got from previous administration.
Twice.
Will this board have to approve whatever academy they come up with before it can be effective?
I don't know.
There's not a rule about that, you know, a principal can design such a thing. I think it has generally been the practice of your leadership. Would the academy model be brought to the board for approval?
Absolutely.
It's generally been their practice.
I
right?
think the schools that have thrived with this have taken time to hear from the community, and the board has had an opportunity to work through it. I really do, so I would love to bring that back. If this is the route we're going to take, I'd love to have work.
Understand that before I cast my vote.
Yes, Mr. Yuri?
What do we tell those that are in there now, that are gonna be junior and seniors?
Well, they would know that it's going to merge in, you know, in 2 years, and, you know, what else could we do if we wait till then?
I think we're just gonna run into the same concepts as now, because they're gonna wanna graduate from that school, it's not gonna be there. But still, I just wanted to, I'm not arguing it, I just wanted to know what we tell them. I know what we tell the freshmen. You're going in with a possibility it may not be there. But those that are already in, that's gonna be junior and seniors that year, are the ones that's gonna be affected the most. So what,
I don't know.
it's no answer, I'm just asking what, something y'all can think about, what would be told?
No.
I will take a stab at that. I've seen several things happen. One is to actually give 2 diplomas, because it is important to those students, to some of them that they have health and life sciences. They chose to attend and they want to see it. Now, is that commonplace? No, but can things like that be done to satisfy
It's good.
our public? Yes.
So we would honor them all the way through. The ones that are freshmen this year, honor them all the
We
way through.
need to honor, and I think we need to get with our principals on what honoring it looks like. I think we really need to get input to help design that if we're going to go this route.
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Dr. Ulan, forgive me, I have to get clarification on what I think I
What you
seconded. That's exactly right. Mr. Richardson, I thought your motion was that the year 2021, we have a plan for academies.
Yes, sir.
So now I'm listening to Mr. Yudi and Mr. Peace. Are we saying we may or may not have academies? In other words, I thought having academies 2021 was a date certain. Are we saying, well, in 1920, we might come back and decide that we're not going to have academies?
Well, I think that what we would do is ask our superintendent how she feels about making a commitment to a plan at Webb to be implemented be brought to the board or whatever, and then to be implemented, that plan 2021. So that it may be academies, it probably will be, but they may come up with some other possibilities. While my staff does the detail stuff, we pass a motion that this is when it's gonna start.
But something is going to happen 2021.
Yes.
In other words, I'm sitting here and I'm hearing this discussion and I'm saying, well, we're waffling and we might decide, okay, we're not going to do anything. So 21, 22, we could still have a web and a health and life sciences.
But if we vote to merge them, that's not possible.
So if I could just go back to what the motion said, because I want to make
All right,
sure.
Mr. Pay attention.
No, read back the motion. It was a motion to merge the schools after the end of the 1920 school year with a plan for academies. So I took that as a two-part, a motion that both things happen. If you want to modify the motion, someone can move to modify the motion, but that is what was moved, is that correct?
Okay, we have a move, are we ready to vote? All those in favor, raise your hand. All those opposed, the motion carries. Okay? Long night. Actually, it's not. The next item is the board preference of study number 3. The board has authorized the study, as you know, in the School of Health and Life Sciences by, and also which was indicated in the study for total roadkill. So we have 2 other items on the plate that we need to decide whether or not we want to have a study on, and that is the merging Mary Potter with Northern Granville, and then that would be one, and then the other one would be the one in the southern part of the county, looking at a middle school possibility, non-energy, wherever, Tar River, and have that study. It would seem to me that last study, that the study of Mount Energy and so on, would probably take some time, and it wouldn't go into effect next year anyway, no matter what, because it would take time if the board made a decision. So I really think the question is the board in agreement to authorize a study of the merger of Mary Potter and Northern Granville? Did we approve that?
Yes, I think the question was which one do you want first?
Which one do you want next? You've
Right,
already
that's what I meant.
authorized the study.
Do the study,
So
yeah.
we just need to know which study to do
That's
next.
right. You said number 3,
Yes.
which would
Which
be
one would be?
Mary Potter, Northern Granville.
Or
Just to-
Holly. Those are the
or
2
Holly, I
remaining,
mentioned, yeah.
and we just need to know the board's pleasure in which one to start gathering research on for you.
I would say, I'd like to make a motion that we move with Northern Granville and Mary Potter because it's the next one that could be implemented. The other one needs study, it sounds like.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. Did you get me?
Yeah.
All right, any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say no. We're all set, okay? All right, we have one last thing. I know.
Now, when might we expect to hear from that study? Because based on just looking at costs, we got to come up with some 955, 770, so the superintendent says. So we need to have some idea of what that's going to generate, because if we don't go forward with something, we're going to have to either decide that we're not going to come up with the 955, or we're going to have to do something else. So that's why I'm asking or requesting, when will we get some feedback on
Yeah,
the
thank
that
you.
study?
When do you all think it's even conceivable that you could have something like this done?
Thank you for asking, Mr. Chair, because
Thank you.
the next topic will actually contribute to the timeline. If you recall, in our last meeting, you all received a figure that sort of caused some concern. And you asked Dr. Winborn to reach back out to the architectural firms and to see if there were additional firms, and he's done that. So if I may, Mr. Mims and Dr. Houlihan, may we go to the next topic, because I think that will contribute to answering that question.
We certainly may.
Okay, thank you. Dr. Winborn?
Yes, ma'am. So, board members, there are 2 attachments here. The first one, I just wanted to share with you that based on your requests, I did several things. Can you just hold
There you go.
So I did several things. The first was I reached out to other folks that are in charge of operations in school districts across the entire state and asked if any of them have done similar studies of mergers or closures in which they use an architect or an engineer to provide information about cost. And I was able to get responses back from quite a few people. And you can see there, this chart just shows more or less. And I was hoping this could give you some perspective on how much this type of thing costs, because I remember that $82,000 seemed like a lot of money. It was more than I had expected, and I think everyone had a little sticker shock. But as it turns out, in surveying other folks, it's not too unreasonable. It's not out of the ballpark. I also reached out to 2 other architecture firms, and I have them on standby. They are willing to come out and meet with us and meet with the maintenance staff and review our plans and do everything that we've already done with Davis Kane. But that will take another 30 days before we get to where we are right now with the first firm. So I'm happy to do that, to get other firms involved, with keeping in mind it's going to prolong everything by at least another 30 days. So Beth, you can open up the second document. I also reached back out to Davis Kane and I asked him for a modified and revised cost fee proposal for their work. And if you'll scroll down, Beth, they presented the same information and they struck out all of the things that would be taken out of this. So this is a scaled down version, and they're not going to be able to provide the same cost estimates with as much precision. It'll be more of a range they're going to give us. So say it will cost between this and this, depending on what you want. And there's a lot of things related to the mechanical systems in the buildings and that kind of stuff that, that takes a lot of work to look at that and decide how much those will end up costing. So if you'll scroll down, Beth, the revised fee structure goes from $82,000. Keep on going, I think it's further down. It's in red. There we go. To a total of slow down a little bit more. 56,000. Okay, so they have cut back about 35–40% on the cost. But the good news is, we scroll back up to the bottom of that page, they've also broken it down by school, so we can do this into chunks if we want. So they are prepared to proceed immediately, like they're waiting for my call to go with any of these other studies for their work. So to answer go back to the question that Dr. McLean teed up for us, how long will it take? It depends on your next steps, on your decisions tonight, what you
So
have to
if
do.
we make the decision tonight to go with the one from Mary Potter, how long will it take?
I think they can probably have that by the end of November.
Okay. All right.
If I'll call them up tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock, say, let's roll.
We meet in December.
Yeah. That'd be good. Yeah. So you would have the other parts of the study done and this added to it, and I'm just by the December board meeting?
That may be ambitious with everything else that's going on in our day jobs too.
So we'll just have to come back in December
But I mean, we can at least, we have an option to move on the Mary, to get the Mary Potter information quickly if that's your pleasure. And the cost would be $22,350.
Yes, sir.
Would you just remind me exactly what is it that we would be getting from Mary Potter?
So we would be getting an analysis
Yes.
of the costs involved in converting that campus to a new central office educational center. So the school would need to have some substantial remodeling and renovations. There's a lot of stuff to do with the codes. When you turn a school into, when it's no longer a school, they've explained to me that there are a lot of changes that need to be made.
I'm sorry.
Did that also include looking at the cost of moving those students to Northern Granville?
No, there's no associated cost because we have more than enough room in Northern Granville. We would just need, our own staff would need to move furniture.
And to that end, Attorney Duperson and Mr. Chair, that's what I was thinking. That is not something that needs to be addressed right now. It's not like,
It's
you
your
know,
end.
we,
That's exactly what I was thinking.
so,
We can delay this portion.
Well, the bottom line is that we need to study. We need to study that it's just like we've done with the other two schools. We need to study. If this isn't a part of that study, then that has nothing to do with we need to study.
Correct. Although, I do recall in your conversations wanting, when the study is presented, that the study is the closure of Mary Potter Middle School, the movement of those students to Northern Granville, and the creation of the central office building. So but if you just want to look at strictly closing the school and moving the kids, that's fine too. We can do either one. Sure, whatever your call.
We had originally asked for this study to renovate the building also.
Yes, sir.
That was in our original request.
but wasn't that a part of the fact that if that building is renovated, then this building can be put on the block and sold?
Yep.
So if that's not going to be something that we're gonna be doing, why do that then? What's that?
Why aren't we going to be doing it?
Well, it's not that we won't be doing, when will we be doing it? Will we be looking to sell this building next year?
Well, if we make that decision, look at selling this building this year.
Well, let's make the decision then.
Well, the only
And
thing
then-
that has to happen is that the Mary Potter facility has to be renovated for the people here to move, and that would take some time.
Yeah. Okay. So, I think after 2 days, maybe, I think some of us are beginning to fall apart. And David's over there wide awake.
He took a
Yes,
bath
ma'am.
today.
Just as a reminder, if I recall correctly, when we talked about the 4 studies and Mary Potter was mentioned as one of the studies the board wanted staff to research. That second layer was added because at that time, the board talked about the importance of the community knowing
Right.
how that facility
Right.
was going to either still be used or not used, but it was, there was this conversation around making sure the community knew the use of that facility.
Absolutely.
So I just wanted to give that reminder.
That's a very good point.
Well, and to maybe further complicate things, no real movement can occur on the 4th study without this work, because that is a significant part of that equation.
Dr. Wimborne, what are they doing at Holly, determining what at Holly?
So we've been, so Hawley, we've asked, based on your request, what would it cost to bring that school up to modern standards? Because I believe that was something you guys wanted to compare to the cost of shuttering it and revamping an elementary school with all the athletic fields and everything that have to be built and so on and so forth.
So for $22,350, they will be able to tell us, What?
For Mary Potter?
no, well, it just happened to be the same.
Oh, yes, sir.
Potter and Holly.
Yes, sir.
But they would be able to tell us exactly what it would cost to bring Holly up to 21st century middle school.
Well, not exactly. They will give us a range. They will give us a range. This is the reduced fee, and you have this, so you can read through what they struck out in their deliverables. So it's not the same level of precision.
This exact letter was attached to tonight's meeting, so that you can see what happened. I think it is important to look at what was scratched to get to these figures. That is going to be important.
You see, these 3 firms the DKA is the architecture firm, and then the other two are engineering companies that they are subcontracting to assist them with this project, and they work in the mechanical, fire suppression, all that kind of stuff.
Dr. I want to clarify something. This says for the red part, where they did it à la carte, it says the services under this scenario include all services listed in the original proposal. So, and this adds up to 78.4. So I read that to mean that this was, that they did two things. One, they gave us a cut down full study, or
Mhm.
two, they gave us an à la carte study that was not cut. In other words, the strike-throughs would be back in.
For the red,
Yeah, did I
Okay.
read that wrong?
I think we need that clarification, because now that you mention it, that 70 figure is mighty close to 82 to me.
yeah. So that would be just DKA's version. If you read, if you look at the line across the top, so it would be 12.3, 12.3, 82, and 82. Is the 52 figure.
Okay,
Right.
okay.
I see. Okay.
So thank you for, yeah, that's true.
Okay.
So in any case, we have choices, so.
Well, I think you need to scroll back up to the proposed scope of services, so we sort of know what we will be purchasing a little further, a little to what they, all right, one, 2, and 3. And that's what I'm looking at. You're gonna look at those buildings, gather and review all documents of existing school properties in preparation of opinions of probable costs for each proposed scheme. Is that what we're looking for? And is that going to allow us to make the decisions that we need to make? I don't think so. You didn't.
I'm sorry, we're in a very important issue.
Okay, I understand. These are the 3 deliverables, as they call it. I'm just saying is item 3 going to give us the information that we need to be able to make decisions going forward. And I said, I don't think so. Now, you all might disagree.
Is that what you're keying in on the word opinion?
Well, I really was sort of keying in on opinion.
Yeah.
Frankly, it's hard to make a decision for me because it's not really clear. And, you know, I would rely definitely on staff to say this will give us what with Mr. Mims, what Mr. Mims, you
Yeah, I
follow me?
understand, absolutely. I mean, it's a, you know, you want the most accurate information possible, but, you know, we will need to pay the full price for that. That's my understanding. They, you know, when we went back to them and I said, okay, what can you give us for less, you know, and this was their response.